Hi everyone and welcome back to this new tutorial. In this one I'm going to show you source control, so how to use Git along with Sourcetree to manage your project. And to show you that I'm going to use one of my assets, TCG engine, but this tutorial is valid for any Unity project or other assets. This is just going to be used for the example. So there's two things that you will need to use to get started with Git. The first one is Sourcetree. That is the UI app I use to interact with Git. And you will also need a hosting for your project. The one I use is gitlab.com, but there are many other hosting available. I know a lot of people like to use GitHub. In this video, I'm going to use this one. So the first thing we're going to do is download Sourcetree and then install it. Since we're not going to use Bitbucket, we're using GitLab, I'm just going to skip this step. I don't need Mercurial, I only need Git. So I'm going to select this one. I think Git is already installed on my computer, that's why there's no checkbox here, but you may have to check this one here. Next, then you can just set up your name and email. I'm not going to use the SSH key. Later, I'm going to use the access token. I'll show you how to do that. So you can just click no here. And there you go, Sourcetree should be installed now. So now I assume that you already created an account on GitLab. We're going to need to link Sourcetree to our GitLab account. So to do that, you can go in Tools, Options. And then if you go in Authentication, you will click on Add Account here. Going to choose GitLab, HTTPS, and then personal access token. This is something you're going to need to create on your GitLab. You can go click here and then preference, and you should see your access token. So just click there. You're going to check everything. You can give it a name, for example, Sourcetree, and then you can click on create personal access token here. Once it's created, you can just copy it. You need to click there. Make sure to copy it now because this one you will not be able to see it later. There will be no way for you to see it. So if you lose it, you will need to revoke this one and then create a new one. So once you copied it, you will go back to Sourcetree and click on refresh personal access token. Then you can put your username. You should be able to see it here. And then for the password, it's not the password that you use to log into GitLab, it's really the access token. And then click on OK. And then after you finish doing this, you should see your GitLab account appear here. So now you should be able to download all your projects. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to click on New Project and then create blank project. So you can give it a name. Here I'm selecting private, so only me can access this project, and I can remove this thing here, and then I just click create project. Now what you're going to do is copy this link here, go back in Sourcetree, click on the plus here to add a new project, and then clone. Going to paste the URL here. Should tell you that this is a Git repository, and then you can select a folder where you want the project to be installed on your computer. Select folder. So now I'm ready to clone the project. This step you will also do the same thing if you already have an existing project on GitLab and you want to access it from another computer, or someone else in your team want to access the project, they also need to use the clone feature here. But right now there's nothing inside, so we're just going to clone it. It will create a folder for us, but if I go in the specific folder, so as you can see, if I go to my project folder, right now there's nothing. There's only a .git folder that contains the information about the Git repositories, but there's nothing inside. So now we're going to go and create a new Unity project from this. Going to go back to Unity, click on New Project. And I'm just going to select a 2D project. Going to call it test git. Now it doesn't let you create it because it says there's already a folder at this location. So I'm just going to create it in a new folder. click on create project. Okay, so now my project is ready, but it's not linked to the right folder. As you can see, there's nothing inside. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to close Unity. Then I'm going to go to my folder test git 2. And I'm just going to copy everything, go back to test git and paste it here. Now I can delete my previous folder, test git 2. And then I'm going to go in Unity, and then I will just delete this one because I want the one that is linked to Git, not the one that I created in another folder. So now I'm just going to click on open and select my folder. Okay, good. So now this is the correct project. So if I go in Sourcetree, I should see all the files that have been created by Unity appear there. But now the problem is that there's a lot of files that we don't actually need to host on Git because these files have been generated by Unity and they're just temporary files. So the way that we can prevent uploading everything that is unnecessary is by creating a Git in your file. And there's a specific Git in your file that works well for Unity project. I will link to it in the description. So I'm going to go and get this file that I have in another project. Just copy the Git in your file from the TCG engine folder. Then I'm going to go back to my project folder and just paste it at the root of the project. So in the same folder that contains .git folder. Then if you go back to Sourcetree, it should remove all unnecessary files. So now you have a lot less things. You should only see the things that are in the assets folder, packages, and then project settings. You should not see all the temporary files like library, logs, and then temp. So now I will click on stage all. We're going to create the first commit, stage all. I can write a description for this commit. I will just write new project. And there you can see when it's green, that means it's a new file. So later you'll see when we edit file, it will be a different color. But for now, since it's a new project, it's all new files. I'm just going to click on commit. And now in the history tab, you will see your commit. So a commit is like a new version that you create for your project, and each version will be saved. So you can always go back to a previous commit if you make a mistake or if you break something. So this is the new one that I've created. You can see here all the files that have been added to it. So now the next thing that I'm going to do is to import one of my assets. We're going to use TCG engine for this example. Going to go in the package manager, my asset, and then write TCG engine. Click on this. I can update it first to make sure I have the last version. Click on import. Now it's asking me if I want to switch project, but since it's a new project, there's really no reason to do that. So I'm just going to click on import. It says it has package manager dependency. So yes, I want to install them. Okay, so now it says I need to restart the editor. We'll do that in a moment. Okay, so here make sure that all the files are selected. But there's a thing that you want to be careful about here, because there's currently a bug in Unity that will force your project to try to downgrade a Unity version, which could potentially just completely break your project. I've been trying to report this bug to Unity, but for now it's still there. And the way that you can avoid this bug is just by removing this file here. So you should never import project version.txt when importing an asset, because this will override your project version. And then when you restart the Unity editor, it will change the Unity version. And if you made any edit in a version that is later than the new one that is contained in this file, then it will just completely break your project. So I will always recommend to just remove this file and not import it, but you can import everything else. So basically you're able to upgrade Unity version, so you can always use a version that is later than the one the asset was made with, but you can never downgrade version. And I'm going to click on import. Okay, there's some burst compiler error. This is because I need to restart the editor, so I'm just going to close it. and then restart it. As you can see in Sourcetree, I already have a lot of uncommitted changes. This means I have files that have been edited but are not staged and commit yet. So the purple one here are all new files, and then the yellow ones are files that have been edited. Okay, so now let's just make sure that the asset is working. I'm going to go in window layouts 2x3 because this is the layout I usually use, but this is just a personal preference. And here I'm going to select the resolution of my screen. I also like to put these into smaller icon like this. I'm going to go in TCG engine, scenes. I can delete this folder because I don't need it. And then in scenes menu, I'm just going to open the menu, don't save. I also like to use play maximize. Then let's try. Okay, seems to be working. So now I'm just going to create a new commit after importing the asset. You need to go in Sourcetree. I need to stage the files that I want to commit. The reason why you need to do that is because sometimes you may have edited a lot of different files, but you only want to commit some specific files. So for example, if you just want to change what you've changed in the package manager, you could just upload these files and then create a commit for this one and then create a separate commit for all the other ones. I'm just going to stage all for this one. Now I can write the name of my commit. I'm going to just write import TCG engine commit. And then as you can see, now you have two different project versions. So you have the first version that is an empty project, and then the one that you've created after importing the asset. The thing that you need to understand now is that these are only saved locally on your computer. So it's not sent to GitLab for now. So what we're going to do is click on push, going to select the main branch, and this should already be selected based on when you clone the project. If you can't find the repository here, there's maybe you've created the project in the wrong way or you didn't use the clone feature. What you can do is go on the repository tab, repository settings, and then you can add your hosting here. Usually click on default remote and then you just copy the path on GitLab. So this would be this thing here. I can just paste it and click on OK and it will add it. But right now it's already added. So now we're able to push. I'm going to click on push and then click here. Now it's pushing to the server. Okay, after it's done, you should see two tags here. So this one represents locally on which commit you are currently, and this one represents the cloud hosting, so your GitLab. And the reason why it's called main is because by default the branch is called main. So this is the name of the branch, and then origin is the name of your hosting. So these are the default name for the cloud hosting and for the branch of this project. So now we can go back to our Unity project and we'll start trying to do some modification. Going to go into the resource folder because that's where all the card data is located. I'm just going to pick a random card, maybe the red dragon here. And then maybe I want this to be quite overpowered, so I'm just going to raise a stat. Going to check if it's working in Unity. I'm just going to check the collection, then find my dragon. So now I have a much more powerful dragon. And then if I go back to Sourcetree, file status, you will see here that the stat have been changed. You can even click on the file and it will show you exactly what has been changed. Now this one has been added probably because that field, the last time I saved this file, then this field didn't exist, so now it's just adding an empty array, but it's not really important for now. What's important is that the attack and HP has been changed to this new value, so I can stage this file because later I will create a commit with it. And sometime you will see that Unity also change your user settings. This is not really important. It's not something that need to worry too much about. You can either just stage it with your commit, or I'll show you right now, you can also right click on it and click on discard. Don't click on remove because this will delete the file, and this is not a file that we want to delete. It's a file that is important for Unity, so we're just going to click on discard, and discard this will revert it to the previous version. So now I'm going to do more change. This time we're going to go inside a script. Maybe I want to change the game script. Just going to open this. So now we're going to change the logic inside can play card. Let's say I only want artifacts to be played in the middle. So I'm going to write here card type is an artifact, and so if it's not an artifact and the slot is equal to 3, then return false. So the condition I've added here is that if I'm playing a card on the slot number 3, which is the one in the middle, and it's not an artifact, then it will be impossible to play it there, so it's just return false. So basically what this is doing is that only artifacts can be played in the center of the board. So now I'm going to try in solo, check if I get any character. So yeah, basically now the character cannot be played in the center because I've reserved this square for artifacts only. Going to go in Sourcetree, then I can add it to my stage files, and then we're going to create a new commit. Click on commit. And now let's say I try to do something, but I completely break the project. Let's say I just write whatever, and then I try to start Unity, but nothing is working, and I don't know why. But I know that my previous version is working. What I can do is that I can go in the file status and then just discard. This will just return it to the previous version. So source control can be very useful if you're working on your project and you're not sure if you're going to break something or do something wrong. It's always easy to just go back to a previous version. And now I want to show you how to pull an update. So everything I committed right now, I've updated it on GitLab. If I go back to GitLab, then I refresh this page, I can see all the files of the project. If I go in code commits, I can also see all the different commits that I've made. And again, in Sourcetree, if you go in the history and click on one of the commits, you can just go and check what have been changed. So now I want to show you how you can use the pull feature if you're working on another computer or someone else in your team want to access everything that you've pushed on GitLab. And to show you that, I'm just going to revert locally to a previous version. The other person will not have to do this, but this is just to show you. So I'm going to click on reset current branch to this commit. Going to select R to discard all the changes. So this will discard all the changes that has been made after this one, but it will not affect the cloud hosting. It will just affect my Git locally. So I'm going to click OK. And now as you can see, locally I'm on this version, but the server is on this version. So since I'm not on the latest version, it will show 1 here, and I can click on pull to update to the last version. So let's say someone else in your team was just working on this version, and then you did this update. Then when they open Sourcetree, they will just be able to click here and pull to get this one. So I'm just going to click on pull, and now it will bring me back to this version. So now I want to show you again problem that can happen. So let's go back to this version. Let's discard all my changes here. Okay, so now I'm on this version and the server is on this one. But before I pull, let's say I've already changed the dragon stat on my side. So let's go to resources, or I'll just search it here for dragon. And then, so these are the initial stat before the, let's say this is another person that I change it. And then I change it myself on my side and I put it to 12. So now you will see that I've changed this file, but on the server, someone else also changed the same file. So the problem that this will create is now if I try to pull, it will tell me that I can't pull because there's a file in my change that is the same than another file that has been changed. So there's many ways I can resolve this. The first thing I can do is to just discard the file. If I'm like, oh, I don't need to do this change anymore, I just want to get the new version on the server, then I can right click here and discard. But if I think, oh no, this is the right version and the one on the server, I can always go click here and see what has been changed. And then I see this other person put 15, but I think, oh no, this is what it should be. Instead, what I'm going to do is create a commit, dragon actual stat, going to click on commit, and now I can do the pull before I push. This is my commit and this is the one on the server. We're still on two different, so now we will need to merge both. I'm going to click on pull. I will remove that because I usually like to do this manually, and then click on pull. And then it says I have merge conflict. This is normal because we both work on the same file. So I'm going to go in file status, and then I need to resolve the conflict. So the one that has the orange icon like this, that means there's a conflict. I can right click on it, resolve conflict, and then I can choose if I want to use mine or use theirs. So I'm going to use mine, the one that has 12. Yes, it shows me which file. Click OK. Yeah, so now it's merging. Now I can just, this is the other change that came with the other update on the server, so I can just click on commit and the description should already be there for you. I'm just going to click on commit and now I'm going to push. So now I managed to merge these two commits together into one, and now the other people will just be able to pull to this version if they didn't make any change. Now the other thing I want to show you, I'm going to just change this file. I'm also going to change the blue dragon. Just make a commit, blue dragon. Now let's say it's someone else that changed that blue dragon, it's not me, so I'm just going to reset to this one. And I'm going to instead change the green dragon. 11. Going back. Now, as you can see, I have uncommitted changes, but I'm not on the last version. So maybe I started working on it and I didn't realize that someone else pushed. And I don't want to complicate things by merging everything. I can go check this one and then I see that, oh, they changed that file, but I didn't change this file. So now I should be able to just pull and it will not create any problem because we are working on different files. I can just pull first before doing my commit, and now I managed to pull correctly. So now I can just push my change, call it green dragon, commit and then push, and now everything is up to date and there's no more problem. Okay, the last thing I want to show you, some people on Discord ask me what's the best way to update to the new version of one of my assets. So in this example, TCG engine. But unfortunately, there's no magical way to do this, especially if you change a lot of files on your side. If you didn't change anything, then you can just re-import everything and overwrite all the files, so that's not complicated, but it becomes more complicated when you start changing scripts and resources and things like this. But the good thing is that Git and Sourcetree can really help you to do this more easily. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to import a different version of TCG engine. Right now I'm already on the last one, But just for the sake of the example, I'm going to downgrade to an older version. I really don't recommend to do this, but since I'm already on the last one, that's the only way I can show you how to do this. So I'm going to click on Asset, Import Package, and then I'm just going to go grab an older version of TCG Engine. Before you do that, make sure that all your stuff, all your changes are pushed in Sourcetree, because I will make things much easier and that you have nothing in your file status. So I'm going to import this, and then you can see here all the files have been changed. So I'm just going to click on import. Okay, reload the scene. Now there are errors because I downgraded version, and there are files that are just not supported in this version, so I'm just going to go delete those files. But if you're upgrading version, then this should not happen, because when you upgrade package, Unity doesn't delete the files that have been deleted. They only overwrite the files that have been changed and add the new files. So that's why I had to manually delete all the files from the latest version. But this problem shouldn't happen when you're upgrading normally and not downgrading. So now I can go in my Sourcetree and see what has changed. And then that's where you need to put a bit of effort on your side to go through all the files and try to figure out which one are from the upgrade and which one are deleting your change that you've actually made. So now I know I didn't change anything in animations, so this should be good to override. Same thing for font, install, material. Now there's a lot of changes because the asset is from a different Unity version from this one, so I think that's why there's a lot of things, even though in between the two versions there's no changes, it's still changing in Unity because now I'm trying to re-import from a previous version. So I'm just going to stage all the files that I don't think it's something I changed. Maybe you've changed the game UI, so you may want to keep that one or discard it. But for now I'm going to stage it. I haven't changed any prefab either. New files can be pushed, no problem with that. So basically the only files I want to look at for now are the dragons. So I'm going to unstage this, and then the game.cs. So now I can see these are the changes from the upgrade, but I also have my condition that I've added here that has been removed by the upgrade. No, not this one, but this one here. So now what you can do is only stage some specific hung instead of staging everything. So this is from the upgrade, so I'm going to commit this one, this two, and this. But this one, there's two changes. So this is from the upgrade, this is the one I've added, so I want to put this back. By the way, when it's red, that means this line has been removed, and when it's green, it means this line has been added. So this change, I want to keep it. This one, I don't want to delete those lines, so I probably want to discard this. So I'm just going to click on those lines and then click on stage lines. Only those lines I will stage. And then this is my change that has been removed by the upgrade, so I can just discard it. So now if I go on the game.cs, I can see that all the changes here are from the upgrade and it's not deleting any of my own changes. So if I go back in the script, I can see that my condition is still there, even though the rest of the script has been updated. And then the dragon is just reverting to what it was in the asset, even though I made changes. So this one, I'm just going to discard them. So this is it for script and resources. If you change scenes or prefab, it's a bit more complicated because some of the data is saved in binary, so it's more complicated to merge those things. What you could do when you work with scene and prefab, I would really recommend to duplicate it before you change one, so that when you override to a new project version, you don't override the prefabs in the scenes. For script, I don't recommend to do that because then you will have duplicate class names. It can create conflicts. So the script, it's much better to merge them line by line in Sourcetree. But for prefabs and even resources, you can just create your own, and then it should not create any problem. But let's say you didn't duplicate the game UI and you're still working on the same one. You'll probably want, before doing the update, and do the duplicate and then try to see what has been changed in the new one. So if I click here, you can see a bit of what has been changed, but sometimes it's like reference to files, so it's a bit hard to know. But let's say I made a mistake and forgot to duplicate this one, and then I made some change and it's overwriting my changes. What I can do is just commit this. So I'm going to write update engine version, then commit, going to push. And now what I can do is go back to this version before I update it. I can double click on this commit and it will change the current working copy. So this is not resetting my latest commit on Git. It will still keep it there, but I'm going to go to an earliest commit. I can click on OK, and then you can see the add is currently here. Now you have to be really careful, because if you're trying to do new pull or push or commits or anything in Sourcetree and your add is not on the last one, it can create issues. So we will want to go back to this one before we start doing any changes with Git. So the reason I'm going to this one is that I just want to go and make a backup of my game UI. Go back in Unity and reload things. So now, as you can see, it's going back. And now let's say I want to keep the menu scene and also the game UI. So I'm just going to select those files, open, and then I can just create maybe a folder outside of the project. I'm going to create one on my desktop, call it backup. And now I'm just going to copy the file I want to back up there. So I have the menu scene and also the game UI prefabs. So now I back up these files. Now I need to not forget to go back to this. So when you're on the different head, you really need to be careful about not making any changes in Unity, because it will be much more complicated to fix things later. So now, yes, I want to go back to this one before I start changing stuff. So now I will go back to my project version. Now there seems to be a problem. This can happen when you're messing with files too much and Unity didn't have time to refresh. So normally if you just restart the Unity, it should be fine. So now I'm back on the latest version, but I don't have the correct scene. When I did the update, it's override my scene and my game UI prefab. So now I can go to my backup here and then just put it back in my project. Going to go in scenes menu, override this one, and then game UI right here. Now refreshing Unity. This is not a foolproof version, because now maybe some script have changed and then you will need to go and fix the property. For example, this one doesn't exist in the older version, so maybe I just want to remove this for now. But you basically will need to go and fix the issues if there's some difference, like some field that are not being filled. If you start the game, you'll probably get some error that more significant. Now I have some behavior that have a script that don't exist in this version because I downgraded version. But at least now I have my latest scene. So yeah, this backup trick is not foolproof. You still need to do some manual merging, especially in scenes and prefabs, but at least it can help you to keep some of the changes that you've made. Another things that you could just do is instead of overwriting here, you could, let's say I revert the game UI to the one from the asset and not mine. And then I copy this one, but instead I give it a different name. Now what you could do instead is, if you go in prefab, you can have both here, and then you can compare each to see if there's any change from one version to the other, and then adapt it to your own version. So yeah, there's really no perfect way of updating to a new version, because it's really hard to predict what each individual person has changed in their project, which files they're going to change, which script prefab scenes. There's so many things that can be updated. That's really something that you need to be aware of and plan for it, and then maybe especially for scene and prefab. As I said, maybe just try to make some duplicates so it doesn't get overwritten. And then with Sourcetree, it makes things so much easier to see what are the change. So I think this is it for this tutorial. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, let me know.